Hey there, Jack Bosch here, and welcome to the new episode of the Forever Cash Life Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jack Bosch, and I'm excited to talk to you today about the concept of, we're going to look at infinity returns in both land as well as other mechanisms of real estate investing. Infinity returns. How would you like to make an infinite return, right? Basically, get your money back and still get the cash flow for a long, long time. That's what we're going to talk about right after this quick message.
Welcome to the Forever Cash Life Real Estate Investing Podcast with your hosts, Jack and Michelle Bosch. Together, let's uncover the secrets to building true wealth through real estate and living a purpose-driven life.
Okay, hello everyone. We are here. I'm ready to talk about this subject of infinite returns. Now, when you invest in the stock market, what's a good return? I mean, I know lots of people who get 4, 5, 6, 7%. I know a few people get over 10% returns on the stock market. Obviously, we had a big boom in the last few years of the stock market. It's kind of leveled off, and most people don't get the 14% anymore. And as a matter of fact, getting 14% is actually very, very rare in any industry, in any market. It's almost like Warren Buffett territory. So therefore, we want to talk about, though, something that's even cooler than that. We want to talk about infinite returns. And infinite returns really means that you have no money in the deal and you get still cash flow coming in on an ongoing basis, either forever or for at the very least for an extended period of time. So there's a concept, there's multiple concepts I want to talk about, multiple examples I want to talk to you about that. The first one is our land flipping. In our land flipping, we have probably had infinite returns probably 1,000 or 2,000 times over the last several years. Now here's how infinite returns in the land industry works. It works with seller financing. I talked to you in other podcasts already before that one of our preferred way of selling properties is by going and buying them for 5 to 25 cents on the dollar. Let's say we buy a property for 15 cents on the dollar, right? Let's say it's a $12,000. Just one of our students, he just got a property under contract for $1,600 and it's worth $12,000. So that's about a 14% price to value kind of purchase price to value kind of ratio. So let's round it up, say 15%. Let's say after closing cost he's at 20%. So he's buying this property at 20% off its value. So now what happens? He can flip this property quickly. It's a small deal. Flip this property quickly for $8,000 and make a $6,000 cash deal. Or what he can also do is he can list this property for $12,000 and go sell it with a 20% down payment. And when he does that, what is 20% of $12,000? Well, 10% is $1,200, 20% is $2,400, right? So it's $2,400 down payment. So he could ask, and for a 20% down payment, nothing out of this world, he's not asking for $1 million, he's asking for $2,400, which is reasonable. Most people have that. So he's asking for $2,400 as a down payment, he gets it, and then he carries a loan for $9,600 for the next 3 years at $400 a month. How about that, right? Would that be cool? Good. So now what, if we analyze this deal, what just happened? What happened is he got a deal for $2,000, and when he sold the deal, he got $2,400 as a down payment. So does he have any money in the deal? No, particularly if he even does that as a double closing, where he does a buying and selling in the same transaction, and he uses the buyer's money for that, because $2,400 is more than $2,000, he can pull that off. And so he basically can use the buyer's money to come up with the money that it takes for him to even buy the property. So he does this entire deal without any of his money, or even if he takes $2,000 out of his pocket, and then the next day he closes on one day, the next day he sells it, he gets his $2,000 back plus an extra $400. He has completely no money in the deal. But now he's getting cash flow. Isn't that an infinite return, really? I mean, technically you could make the argument that, well, it really is based on his $2,000 investment. That's why I brought this double closing thing, because in double closing he used none of his own money. the money came from the buyer, it was transferred over to the seller, and he got the $400, so that went for closing costs, so he got nothing on it, but now he had used no money on his own money. He just put the deal under contract, found a buyer, put that on contract, closed on both transactions with the buyer's money, called a double closing, and then he's now getting $400 a month for the next 3 years. That's the definition of infinite return. Now we can make that same amount, same deal. Like one of my students and friends, Mitch, just told me literally today, he got a deal for $12,000 and he sold it for $36,000 with a sold it for $36,000 with a $10,000 down payment. So now he has a $26,000 loan, and he still has only $2,000 in the deal, and he gets like something like $500 a month. So at $500 a month over 4 months, he gets all his money back. So all his money is back in his pocket. He pulled the money out. In this case, he put $12,000 out of his pocket, and then 4 months later, every single dollar sign of this money is back in his pocket, and afterwards, it's all just gravy. It's all just cash flow. That's my definition of infinite returns, right? And it might be not necessarily scientific, because technically you could say, well, he put $12,000 down, so you have to count the return based on the $12,000, and he makes like $6,000 a year, $8,000 a year, $6,000 a year. So his return is 50% a year. By the way, would that be a bad return? No, that would be an awesome return. But I choose to look at it like that the moment I got all my money back, I can use that money for the next deal. I have no more money in the deal, and now all the rest of it is really infinite return for me. By the way, we can do the same thing in multifamily. We can do the same thing in houses, right? You can take a house that you get below market value, you can go rehab it, and then you have it reappraised. And let's say it's a $200,000 after repair value, it's a $200,000 house. You get it for $110,000. You put $25,000 in it. You're now the $135,000 in that house. You have it reappraised. It appraises now at $200,000. The bank gives you 80% of that, which is $160,000. And you're walking and you have all your money back, plus $25,000 in profit, plus now let's say you have a $1,000 mortgage and a $1,500 rent, plus you now have positive cash flow from that property. Now all your money is out of the deal, right? You put 110 in, you put 25 in, you got 160 out, all your money's there, back in your pocket, back in your bank account, ready for the next deal, plus an extra profit on it, and you're still getting cash flow. That's another definition of an infinite return deal. And in the multifamily world, there's two definitions of multifamily of that. One of them is when you do the deals yourself, you probably want to invest money into your own deals. But also due to the effort of doing that, you can also charge a small, modest acquisition fee. So if you do that, in some cases, the acquisition fee might be just the same amount that you put into the property. So you put in $100,000 into the property, you get $100,000 acquisition fee, and as a result, you're now net zero in the deal, but you still have money in the deal. But in essence, you got compensated for all the huge amount of work that it is to get a multifamily deal together. And but net, you have zero money in the deal, and now you get cash flow from the deal. But an even better way for our passive investors that we have come up with, because we work with passive, usually accredited investors that invest in our deals, is that one of our methods is that what we're looking to do in many deals, whatever it makes sense, we do it, is we're getting a deal under contract at, let's say a $5 million deal. Let's say we only get a 70% loan on it, and the rest we fill up with equity from private investors, and put in some of our own money. But then what we do is we improve the property. We optimize the management. We reduce the cost of running it. We raise the rents. We increase the collection rates. We find other ways to make money on the property, as I mentioned in other podcasts, like creating storage units and having and just making it or upgrading the units to get rent bumps. So we're improving the performance of the property. And what happens in multifamily is the value of the property is being driven by the net operating income. It's being driven by the income of the property. So if you're taking a property from $300,000 in income to $500,000 in income, the value of that property has just gone up, let's say at a 10 cap, by $2 million, right? or let's say if it's more like a 6 cap, by $3 million. So you'd raise the net operating income of a property over 2-3 years by $200,000. You just raised the value by $3 million. Couldn't you go to a bank and ask for what's called a supplemental loan and ask them for, let's say, $2 million out of that deal, and then take $2 of the $3 million, take it back out as a loan? And in this particular case, our equity, the equity that the investors have put into the deal, was just exactly $2 million. So if that happens, what would we do? We would raise the income of the property by $200,000. We then raise the value of the property by $3 million. So at the same time, right? One results in the other. And then we take an extra $2 million loan out and we pay all our investors back. And now when all our investors are paid back, they have infinite money. It's an infinite return deal for them, right? Now, we can't promise we do that in every deal. We do that as the market conditions, depends on the market conditions, depends on the interest rates, depends on how quickly we can bring these properties up. But it's always an option that we tell our investors that it's actually that we might, if possible, we might do that. Because now we have the possibility that our investors have a infinite return deal, because they invested a total of $2 million. Not one person, by the way. Individual people, $50,000 a piece, or $50, $100, $200,000, and so on. They invested that together, and let's say $2 million, let's say 30 people invested $2 million together. And now, 2 years later, we refinance the thing and we give them the $2 million back, but they're still in the same position in the deal where they get cash flow on a monthly or quarterly basis from the deal. Isn't that a beautiful deal? That's something that we're starting to do right now. That's something we're starting to look into, and that we want to implement, that we are implementing in as many of our multifamily deals as possible. And that also means that the money that we invested in, we get that back in. Because if I put $250,000 in a deal as equity, then I also get that back. So, and then I also keep getting still cash flow from the deal. So infinite investment deals are possible in land, they're possible in houses, they're possible in multifamily, they're possible in all the areas that I typically talk about in our podcast. I want you to wrap that brain around there. I want you to not just look at the quick cash deal. I want you to look at ability, like think about different ways that you can not only get into deals, but also that you can get your money out of the deals at some point of time and still get the cash flow going. And as I mentioned, it works in all three different ways of real estate. All right, that's all I have right now. That's if you enjoyed that, if you have questions about that, post them below. And if you're watching this as a video, if you're looking at it in iTunes, I don't know if there's a common possibility, but there is a possibility to give us a 5-star review, because the only way that people find us on iTunes is if we come up to the ranks with a whole bunch of 5-star reviews. So make sure you give us to us. If you're watching it on YouTube, go over to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast, put the 5-star review in. If you are listening to this on iTunes, go over to YouTube, subscribe to the podcast. And if you need one, if you want to be on Facebook mainly, go on Facebook and join our Facebook group called Forever Cash Club, and we'll be happy to discuss things over there about anything you want to discuss in the area of real estate. All right, talk to you later and see you in the next show.
Enjoyed this episode? Then make sure you like, subscribe, and post your comments and questions below the video. We're looking forward to hearing from you.